Hi there, folks. Simon here. This is Tack University, a series that covers some tips and tricks and maybe just some things that I've learned along the way that I think may help bring your game to a higher level. Today, we're going to talk about momentum. What do I mean when I say momentum in a game? Basically, what I'm saying is when a player has momentum, they can make a road quicker than the other player. And so momentum plays a big part in strategy and in how we make these moves in TAC. And so we're going to discuss what the best time is to play a move that gives you momentum, how to regain momentum once it's been lost, and a bunch of other things. And we're going to do that all by looking at this game right here. We start out seeing this standard mirrored opening that we see so often right now in this 6x6 in the competitive space. Now, the reason for that has to do with momentum, actually. And you can see all about this opening and other openings in my openings video on TAC University. But in this particular video, we're going to look at momentum and why this is a momentum opening. So white wants to build this across here, and white starts with momentum in any game because they are the first player. And first player starts with momentum because they're able to place that first piece for themselves. And so that gives them a slight advantage, but black does have the opportunity to take that advantage back. So white is going to build up here in a 6x6 and build for that horizontal road or vertical road, whatever they decide to do, and however black decides to respond to this. So in this case, they've got two stones in a row. Black responds by placing the second stone, but we see that white is always one stone closer to a road than black. And so in this case, white places here, but then black deviates from that, doesn't keep playing because black knows that white has the momentum, so black places a stone here. This allows black to make any sort of captures onto this spot and interrupt this horizontal road that white has building. So that's one way to take back that momentum. White continues to play, knowing that it'll get interrupted, but building for that position anyway, forcing those moves from black, forcing a capture. So in this case, black drops the capstone, and a capstone is a great way to take momentum from your opponent. So in this opening, black drops a capstone because a capstone can interrupt a road threat and take the momentum away from white, but at the same time, not give any liabilities by capturing with a flat stone, because that could then be captured over and recaptured and free those captives. But with a capstone capturing, it doesn't allow the opponent to recapture that stone and use it against you. So, black responds here. White can do a number of things. White can continue to build along and keep going for this horizontal road threat, even though it's going to be interrupted, likely by this capstone. It's inevitable. Or could decide to switch gears, because at this point in the game, white could build up here, down here, down here, or up here, and any of those positions would maintain white's momentum in that vertical direction. So mostly up here or here, because if white builds, for example, at b4, white then has two pieces going in the vertical direction. And black only has two pieces going in the horizontal direction, but that can be blocked off by white. So white building here could keep that momentum. Black could eventually stop that by placing here, and that would block off white's momentum, and then black would retake that going in that horizontal direction, but then white would then place here and then regain that momentum. It's sort of a give and take. But in this case, white placed here, made that horizontal tack threat, forcing black to respond. So black then is going to come up with this capstone, completely cut that off. Now, if white plays up here or down here or wherever, black has momentum because black can place that third stone right here at D2. And that allows black to make that road quicker. So black now has the momentum, has regained that momentum. So white has to play some moves to take that back. So like I said, capstone, great way to take momentum away from your opponent. White plays here to keep black from building along that line. Black going to keep building here. This creates, again, keeps that momentum. This creates a Not attack threat, but it's going to be one in the next turn. The next 2 turns. White plays a capstone down here. Now this capstone here is going to eventually cut off right here onto c2, and that's to take away the momentum of black. Again, we see capstones do a great job of taking away the momentum from your opponent and regaining it for yourself. This can also be done with walls a lot of times, or just a really good flat capture. Black comes across, keeps that capstone away from these pieces, and maintains momentum in the vertical direction. It forces white to respond in some way. White responds with that, then we'll see black place, and then the capstone comes over. Black does have momentum here, but he knows it's going to have to be cut off at some point by this capstone coming across. So black could decide to switch gears here, go for a horizontal threat, but instead builds up to the vertical. White comes across with that capstone. Now it's black's turn to start going for that horizontal. Starts to build in that direction. Black does, I believe, have momentum here. Let's take a look at how many turns it takes each one to build a road. So 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns to build a road. Or 1 turn here, 2 turns here, and then 3 turns here. For black, it would be 1 turn here, 2 turns here, 3 turns here. But black just went, white's about to go, so white does have momentum here, but white doesn't use the momentum, decides to drop a wall instead. So white dropping a wall here could be considered not a great move or still a good move. It depends on what the strategy was behind it. Because if white thought, for example, that black was going to make a road before white, then that wasn't exactly done with the right strategy in mind, because white was going to finish that road quicker. However, this does end up working out in the long run for this particular game. Things played out differently. We'll see black comes across and white comes across, white moves around, making some moves that I thought were a little strange, but eventually worked out in this particular game. But the main thing is to look at momentum when you can take it back from your opponent, how to gain that momentum. Because the big part about every Tinue puzzle you'll ever see on the subreddit, Didactic blog, Nitzel's puzzles, in your own games even, those Tinue sequences always have the winner with momentum. Because by the very definition of Tinue, you have to have momentum in order to do that. And it could be that you're regaining the momentum on the first move of that Tinue sequence, but you must have the momentum in order to make that forced win for yourself. So this is a big part of TAC. It's not the whole thing. It's definitely not a be-all, end-all of all TAC strategies, but it's definitely a strong piece. And we're going to be going into more and more pieces of TAC strategy in this TAC University series. Specifically, we're going to be talking about how to place those walls, just like we talked about how to place capstones, just like we talked about how to do these openings that are so common right now. We're going to talk about a number of different things, how to do flat placements. We already talked about flat count differential moves, how to make those positive flat count differential moves, and how to make them work for you. There's a lot of different things we're going to talk about in this TAC University series, but momentum, I feel like, is a pretty strong foundation to go on, because you can definitely take a look at these moves that you make that kind of force your opponent into doing something that they didn't want to do. And that's the big part of momentum. That's why it's such a strong piece of your overall TAC strategy. Granted, there are some times where you won't want to keep your momentum, and this happens sometimes. I'm not sure if it happens the majority of the time or the minority of the time, probably the minority of the time, where your opponent will make a move and you'll have the opportunity to take that momentum and do something with that, but then your opponent will be able to make a move and cut off all of your momentum and eventually put you in Tinue. That's probably a thing that has happened in the past. I'm going to say it's almost guaranteed that it's happened in the past. So not every time will you want to keep that momentum, but I like to keep the momentum at least at the early game as long as I can to basically stay in that game and force my opponent to make certain moves that I wanted him to make. That is all for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in to the next video in this TAC University series. And as always, be sure to check out the description of this video for all the TAC resources like the TAC subreddit and especially the TAC Discord server, which is the community hub where you will find all sorts of people to play with, discuss all things TAC, and even play asynchronous or correspondence games right there in the Discord server without using any additional programs. It's really fun, really easy, and a good way to get better at TAC without having a time limit or having to carve out a big block of time to play a whole game at once on playtac.com. Again, all the resources are there, playtac.com, the subreddit, which has TAC Tinuay puzzles every weekday, how to play videos, and all that jazz. Be sure to check out all those links, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.